life you took from his family and friends? Andrew Martin Cross. From Andrew, you took all he had, and all he ever had, he will ever have on this earth. In the world we know, the physical world we live in, only by the grace of God did he survive the extremely violent crash and 4 hours later the 2-hour surgery to relieve pressure on his brain. The relative success of that surgery and God's grace allowed time for Andrew's wife, both sets of his parents, many friends to visit in the intensive care unit at St. Mary's Hospital here in Grand Junction. Over a period of nearly 5 weeks, friends and family members came to support his family and say goodbye to Andrew. We lost him that night because of your stupid, senseless, irresponsible, and criminal actions. Andrew never regained consciousness as a result of the massive head trauma to the left side of his head. Initially, there was hope in his ICU room that his brain injury was not so severe, but that when he was removed from heavy sedation, he would come back to us injured but whole with a chance at a full recovery.
This is Andrew's father
speaking. He was finally
speaking.
able to undergo a second MRI on February 13th. That hope turned to anguish and tears after the results of the MRI were made known to the family. Doctors only gave Andrew an optimistic 20% chance of regaining any level of consciousness because of the extent of the injury to his brain. In reality, after having more conversation with representatives of the neurology unit of the hospital, it was clear that there was no expectation by the neurology staff that Andrew would regain consciousness because of the extensive damage his brain had suffered. Who was Andrew? Andrew was a son, a brother, a Christian, a Hokie, a U.S. soccer certified referee for the U.S. Soccer Federation, sports camp counselor for Fredericksburg, Virginia Parks and Recreation, an ordained minister who led his church youth program for nearly 6 years, a lead 222 regional coach in the area of Virginia Beach, Virginia, meaning he worked with other youth ministers, a brother-in-law, a devoted husband to Evelyn, a field guide for Legacy Treatment Center, where they treated people suffering from the same conditions you are in terms of substance addiction. Uncle, wilderness backpacking guide, ski instructor, and most recently was known as Desert Drifter to all who watched his popular YouTube channel of the same name. Andrew loved people. He loved helping people rise above their fears and concerns, and he loved the outdoors where he backpacked, climbed, canyoneered, skied, and floated a number of whitewater rivers and inflatable boats. Andrew was 6 feet 4 inches tall, weighed about 180 pounds. He had bright blue eyes, and I always thought his mother's disposition more so than mine. He had his mother's smile and did so easily. He loved his friends and his family.
That's not the video, that's him.
Especially his mother. I so loved seeing them together. Made me smile always. I'll restate that. It made me smile always. He dearly loved his wife, Evelyn. I'm eternally grateful that they found each other with the help of God. Andrew could pack away some chow, however slowly. I don't think he ever carried a spare ounce of fat on his body, though. He loved to compete, teach, engage in good conversation. He loved to share with others about his faith. He's very comfortable with other people's feelings, very considerate of other people's feelings. And he was never afraid to try new sports and outdoor activities. He was very intelligent and could teach himself nearly anything. And would become quite good at it by reading, researching, listening to others who passed on their knowledge, and watching others. Andrew was never reckless, as far as I know. He never quit a team he was a member of or an activity in which he had invested himself. And I made it clear to him when he was young, you don't quit, but you instead press on. You contribute what you can, when you can, whether you're a member of a team or learning a new skill. He never quit.
For those watching, Ragnar looks like he's paying attention. I'm sure he's putting on a good show.
Andrew lived history. Andrew lived history and the people of the history he studied. His bachelor's degree was in history. His ability to connect with people from the past and present really shines through in his videos posted on his Desert Drifter YouTube channel. That absolutely blew up in less than 6 months and has actually grown more since his death. He was a very genuine person who was very easy to get to know.
Can't believe how it's got to be so hard for him.
He had a hearty laugh and a quick smile.
He was just barely older than my son.
He was a super taster. You can look that up, which has also enhanced his sense of smell. He loved the smell of what he called cold trees in the Northwest, as well as the summer smells that humid air of Kentucky, where we live, carries across the countryside. He taught himself to cook and was very good in the kitchen. Andrew was courageous and honorable throughout his life. Andrew, above all else, worked hard at living his faith through action, word, and deed. He made time for God in his life and used Jesus' teachings as his guiding light. In summary, that's the person you killed, Nicholas Kristl. I don't know your history. I've learned more recently, but I'll more or less stick to this statement. Except for a few things, I did learn from your LinkedIn account, public-facing page. So if some of what I say is not factual, then please feel free to, I apologize, and please feel free to correct me if you choose. I don't know exactly when you left the Army. I have a better idea after seeing some information recently, but I surmise that you have not been doing a whole lot with your life since you did so. I am aware of an event that occurred about 10 years ago related to substance abuse, alcohol, I assume, and I've since learned that's the case. And you were convicted of a related crime. If you're going to make anything out of the remainder of your life, I feel strongly that you need to embrace Jesus and let him work in your life. You need to separate yourself from the evil of alcohol abuse, and he can help you do that. But it's your choice, and it's ultimately up to you to exercise the courage, which I know you must possess, to do so. And why do I think you have courage within you? Because you started your adult life on the right path by graduating from Norwich University with a degree in criminal justice, accepting a commission in the Army, and serving over 4 years, or somewhere thereabouts. Some of that time was spent, I know, in Iraq and Afghanistan. You rose to the rank of at least first lieutenant, responsible for leading soldiers, and presumably resigned your commission approximately 4 years later, with some level of disability. I've since learned 100% disability. All of those accomplishments took courage. I'm sure more at some times than others. At some point in your past, you started down the wrong path and have at least fallen twice. Once 10 years ago in New York, and now with the killing of our son and Evelyn's husband.
I got the New York one. I found that one.
On the night of the 31st of January, you accelerated down North Boulevard after illegally entering the road and disregarding a red light to 82 miles per hour in a 35 zone before striking Andrew's 4,000-pound car in the rear with your 10,000-pound vehicle, as squarely as anyone could hit it. I'm not aware of any skid marks noted at the intersection that might indicate that you tried to brake your vehicle at the last second, and yet there was an open lane to Andrew's left. You could have taken to avoid his auto, but we know you didn't do that. Was it because you were intoxicated with a blood alcohol BAC 4 times above the legal limit?
30.
Or were you on some sort of death mission because life wasn't treating you well? I don't say that to taunt you, but only because I have seriously thought it many times. I do know that the force with which you hit his stationary car as he waited for the red light to turn just a few blocks from home would have killed most people at the scene. I think he survived the initial crash and subsequent 2-hour surgery only because of the grace of God. I think he survived the next nearly 5 weeks for the same reason. and I am eternally grateful that he did so. Let's go back to February 13th, after we learned of the MRI results.
He reminds me of
Initially, there were
Andrew.
tears of despair and anguish, but then the faith of so many friends, Evelyn, my wife Linda, sister Jenna, Evelyn's siblings and parents, and countless persons who followed Andrew's efforts to recover via the caringbridge.org post, being made daily through the darkness of that day, shown through the darkness of that day, their faith, I'm referencing, and created new hope that maybe, just maybe, there would be a miracle that God would perform. But we know now that that was not God's will, and Andrew is in his presence today. As Andrew was slowly brought out of the heavy sedation that he was placed under while his body healed, responses were not being made by him that a person who is slowly gaining consciousness would demonstrate. As more time passed, it became clear that Andrew was not coming back to us. My wife and I began discussing this observation and expectation in private, but we're not ready to approach Evelyn or Jenna.
Must be his sister.
With what we believe to be the reality of Andrew's situation. On the morning of Sunday, 23 February at about 9 a.m., I was sitting in the ADU where we were staying near here, waiting for our church service back home to begin. I was going to watch it on my cell phone. I was looking out a window across the room at a sunny day outside. I was near the end of a week of recovery from some ailment I contracted, and so was staying away from the hospital. Linda had already left to sit with Andrew through the morning. As I stared out the window, I felt a peaceful feeling come over me, and the presence of Andrew to my right. A very few seconds passed, and then I heard him say in my head from my right side, "Let me go." I became emotional, knowing what I had just heard, but not fully believing it. And then a short time later, he said it again, "Let me go."
Wow.
At that point, I knew what had just happened. That statement, "Let me go," echoed in my head for hours. I don't pretend to fully understand the spiritual world that exists, but it is very real. What I heard Andrew say that morning was and still is very real to me, as real as me standing here talking to you today. I am sharing it with you, Nick Kristl, and hope that you will do like Andrew and embrace Jesus, who is within us all, and read his word, the Bible, so that he can better speak to you. He's your only hope, in my estimation, if you are to make something out of your life in the future. I don't hate you. I never have. I don't wish you anything bad for your future, in your future, when you are no longer incarcerated. I do forgive you for what you did to Andrew and for all of the anguish and despair.
Holy crap.
We have suffered.
This is the court case for Andrew Cross.
Which our family continues to cope with. I hope that you find a way to avoid the evil that you were part of on the evening of 31 January 2025, and will pray for the same. I do not, however, believe in any way that your accountability for the crime you committed is diminished by what I have just stated, and sincerely hope that this court punishes you to the maximum extent of the law, as allowed by the law. From my perspective, you have demonstrated in the last 11 months that any sense of honor the Army might have instilled in you is missing now.
Absolutely.
You lied to the investigating officer when you were interviewed by him in the hospital. A man of honor owns up to his mistakes, however bad, and doesn't lie when it seems convenient to save his skin. The The story you told to imply that you did not drink anything until after the crash occurred would have only served to further incriminate you. Because you see, the implication you made that your extreme drunkenness was attributable primarily to alcohol you consumed after the crash to ease your pain only supports my initial belief that you were on some sort of death mission, and that is why you were traveling at such an excessive speed. Did not change lanes to avoid Andrew, did not hit your brakes even at the last second, and hit his car as squarely in the rear as was possible. In reality, none of what you said in the interview relating to how the crash occurred was true. And so the doubt remains regarding what was really going through your very drunk mind just before you effectively killed Andrew that night. The oath you took as you accepted your commission as an officer in the U.S. Army is still in force. I took the same oath when I was commissioned in the U.S. Marine Corps. When you resigned your commission and left active duty, that oath did not expire, nor did it for me when I retired. We both solemnly swore the following words: to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. We both ask at the end of the oath by stating, "So help us God," for God's help. You can't honor that oath and break the laws of the land. Honor is the guiding light for courage. If the courage I believe you demonstrated once and still have within you is ever to serve you in a beneficial way when you are going to have to work, then you are going to have to work on your honor. Honor is demonstrated. Holding out for a plea bargain while clearly guilty demonstrates a lack of honor. The honorable choice was to admit your guilt, place yourself at the mercy of the court. I think you have lost your sense of honor. Without it, you will struggle to ever make anything of yourself. In November, we planted a dogwood tree in our yard to honor Andrew. November is his birth month. A local retired minister, Reverend Jeff Bell, with whom I work as a member of the board of our local food pantry, came to our home and stood over the tree after we planted it to say a few words. What follows is a short excerpt from what he presented that day. I think Jeff, with these words, captures very clearly how Andrew was serving Christ through a different kind of ministry. And I quote, "Today we come here to plant a tree and dedicate it to the memory of Andrew Kristl. He was your son, a child of God who knew he was chosen by the author of creation to be holy and beloved. His vocation was to explore the vastness and grandeur of creation and to help people see what he saw. Personally, I believe the ones who help us see the beauty of creation are disciples of the first order, who bring such joy, enlightenment, and revelation that lives are enriched, for the beauty of creation reveals the fingerprints of God."
These people spend a
Jeff
lot of time
continues,
studying religion.
"Talking to
That's a
you,
lot of information.
watching one of his videos and reading his obituary, I became aware that his life was a testimony to the presence of the living Christ. He worked with different ministries which apparently had a wide impact throughout the West. He seemed to be a person through whom the light of Christ shined brightly, but with humility." I think Reverend Bell captured the essence of Andrew and his latest work perfectly. I'll close with this verse from Psalm 116, verse 15, New King James. "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." At 10:50 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, March 4th, 2025, the Lord was smiling as Andrew passed from this world to the next. Many tears were shed that day, before that day, and since. But we know that Psalm 116, verse 15, we know from Psalm 116, verse 15, that Andrew was received with open arms as he began his new journey. He will always be forever young in our hearts and mind, forever loved and missed. Sincerely, Lyle M. Cross, Colonel, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. Before my wife comes up, one thing that I'm going to
He
pass
was an officer too.
Nick to the sheriff's office, because that's how I've been informed I have to do it, is this Bible. It's the New Testament. There's a short note inside that I'm sure they'll review and look at and all that kind of thing. But what I tell you is that this was given to me at Officer Candidate School. I didn't use it because I had another Bible, and who knows why I kept it, but I did, and here it is today. I I think you could benefit by at least starting with the New Testament and reading it, learning it.
Waste.
And there's some other information there that retired Army officer, I believe he was a colonel. When I was at Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, at the Army Command and General Staff College with some of your brethren, I went through school for a year. He had a Bible study he led, and my wife and I were part of it.
That turned to religion.
And it helped him.
And it helped them.
The man was an angel. On earth. But in here is it's really a directive on how to tab your Bible and use your own faith and foundation of faith to bring people to Christ. As I say in my note, I don't think you'll rise to that level soon, but it's something that you can do while you're incarcerated. And it will, I don't think there's anything greater in life you can do than to bring people to Christ. But you'll have to decide. Those are decisions you'll have to make. I'll give you this. You got to make a choice to read it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You give that to Miss Bauer. She'll be able to get it to the deputy.
All right, thank you. I'll leave Linda's short reading right there.
Life is gonna
What I'm tripped out about is I didn't know he was an officer in the military. I never knew that.
Ma'am, if you could state your name and spell your last.
Your Honor, my name is Linda Cross. I'm Andrew's mother.
That's CROSS.
Correct.
Go ahead.
About 2 months before the accident, we came to Colorado for a visit. Andrew organized a hike for us, an activity our family has always enjoyed. At one point, we moved by steeply pitched slab rock. If one walked up to the top of the rather challenging face, it promised a lovely view. I declined to try, suggesting I would wait at the bottom. Andrew gently encouraged. He said he would be there to help me on the steeper parts. He said he knew I could make it, and I did. The view was stunning. The little boy who we had encouraged and helped was now helping me. He had shown time and time again that he was a man who derived great joy in creating experiences to add to others' joy.
Ragnar looking down.
But it was so apparent to me on that day. We have lost a fine son, and the world
I think that's Danny.
has lost a good citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cross.
Your Honor, Andrew's wife, Evelyn Cross, is going to speak next. She has asked that the photos that she submitted of her and her husband to the court be published while she speaks, if the court would allow that.
This is his wife speaking, Evelyn.
Yes, I can publish them too.
Well, I think we have it too, if that works.
I have it.
Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
looking at it earlier, so
Okay, thank
it's easy enough for me to find, and I can put it right there on the screen without taking the WebEx down.
Okay.
Ms. Cross, come on up to the lectern, please. Give me just a moment.
I've seen her on a lot of his videos.
I trust this is this set of photos.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just have to start by saying, I hate this. With every fiber in my being, I hate that we are here. I hate this for Andrew. I hate this for me. I hate this for our family. I hate this for our friends. And I even hate this for you, Nick. The whole situation is screwed up, and it just makes me incredibly sad. And truthfully, I'm doubtful that the outcome of today's hearing will change that.
He goes by.
If anything, I think it might even add to
I didn't
it.
know that.
Standing up here and talking to you,
And I do say, Ms. Cross, I would ask that you just address your comments to me and not to me directly.
okay,
It's just the way the process goes. It's nothing that you're saying,
Okay.
doing, and I know you'd like to address him personally,
Yeah.
but
can I look in that direction or no?
I would prefer that you look towards me.
Okay,
Oh wow.
I understand why, but there's a host of reasons that I don't need to get into I'm just asking that you please address the comments to me. You
Okay.
can certainly talk to him, but just look at me.
Okay, thank you for
I
that.
never knew that before.
Standing up here and
Never
talking
been in
to you,
court for that,
Nick,
though.
is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. And I've had to do a lot of hard, unimaginable, and courageous things this year. Yet beyond reasons I can fully understand, I knew that I needed to find it in me to show up here today, look you in the eyes, and speak to you directly. There's so much I could say. I think typically the victim uses this time to say all of the ways that the loss inflicted by the defendant has changed their life. But frankly, if you put yourself in my shoes for even 1 minute, you'll realize a loss like this changes absolutely everything. So instead, I'm going to use this time to talk to you, Nick. Even if I had a whole day with you, I'm not sure I could cover all of the feelings and words I've wanted to say. But when it boils down to it, there are two things that feel most important to communicate. First, I need you to know who Andrew was. Not because I want to make you suffer, but because the reality is that your life and his are forever intertwined, whether we like it or not. It feels important and necessary that you know him. This is simply honoring and the right thing to do. Second, I need you to know what I hope for you. Judge Barrett will make a sentencing today. I trust him to make the right decision to uphold whatever justice looks like within the limits of our legal system. What I hope for you has nothing to do with that sentencing. I have no control over what you do with what I say. Yet I know that it is deeply important that I say this to you myself. So to begin, my Andrew. He was a really special person. And I'm not just saying that because I'm his wife. He genuinely had a charisma to him that made it hard not to love him. He was steady, strong, honest, and wise. He felt larger than life. It's what made it so hard to believe that such a resilient and seemingly unstoppable force could actually die. Losing him shattered my entire sense of reality. Andrew was a man of deep faith in God. Nothing was more important to him than living honestly and true to the spirit within. It saturated every part of his life. He always strived to do the right thing, even when it was not the status quo. And when he did inevitably mess up, he was the first to apologize and own his mistake. It was refreshing and made it easy to trust him. Andrew never spoke badly about others. Ask any of his family and friends and they will say the same. It was incredible and it challenged me to be a better person. He was annoyingly good at many things. He could pick up nearly anything. New knowledge, a new hobby, a new skill. He took some time to self-study and all of a sudden he was a skilled canyoneer, rock climber, speaker, photographer, woodcarver, YouTuber, the list goes on. Yet simultaneously, the guy was humble. He pretended to be prideful because he enjoyed all of the fun that people would poke at him when he did so. But it was precisely his humility that allowed so many people to enjoy poking fun at him. They knew they could do so without hurting his feelings. He was so steady. Despite struggling with anxiety and OCD, this guy put in years of work and therapy, prayer, and personal reflection to become the person he was. His steadiness was a blessing to myself, his family and friends, the people he took into the backcountry on challenging outdoor adventures as a guide, and the worldwide community he attracted on his YouTube channel. He was tender-hearted. The second you saw Andrew interact with animals or children, it was like his tender heart was right there on his sleeve. This quality was the sweetest compliment to such a steady and strong man. He was playful. Not only could he take being made fun of, but he could dish it back with a perfect, lighthearted delivery. In that same vein, he could be a total weirdo and was just filled with the most endearing quirks. In the last year and a half of his life, he started a very successful YouTube channel called The Desert Drifter, where he would take people out into the desert to explore and educate them about ancient cultures. At the time of my writing this, his channel had 588,000 subscribers. Since his hospitalization and passing, I've been floored by the number of strangers that have seemed to genuinely share in the grief of losing him. How is it possible that hundreds of thousands of people came to love my Andrew like a son, brother, and friend when they never actually met him? I believe it was because Andrew was Andrew. Whether sitting next to me within the privacy of our home or behind the screen of a stranger's computer, he was never trying to be anyone but himself. As the Quaker writer Parker Palmer says, he was letting his life speak. He boldly followed that unique spirit of God within him, often turning from the things that made more sense to follow his unique path. It's rare to find someone living in such a genuine way. It was powerful. His authenticity stood out, and he impacted many simply by living no one's life but his own. I think in bearing witness to his life, many people realized that living true and honest is really all any of us can do. This was the gift Andrew gave the world. Now on to my hope for you, Nick. The accident happened less than 4 minutes from our home. I drive through that intersection nearly every day. Sometimes I purposefully avoid it, but most of the time I drive through it. And often, to my frustration, the light turns red. I spend a lot of time sitting there, trying not to picture the events of that night. As you can imagine, it evokes a lot of anger. And that is not an emotion I felt very often before this. I scream and I cuss, and if I'm being honest, I usually direct it all at you. Anger is the primary emotion that first overcomes me when I think about that night. Anger toward you for making such a selfish decision. Anger toward the police for not stopping you sooner. Anger toward God for letting it all happen. And anger toward all of the people and events in your life that led you to be the kind of person that would get so intoxicated and then get behind a wheel. But it somehow never stops there. And frankly, I wish it did. Anger is a way more productive and energetic emotion. However, when I give my anger space to be expressed, I always find that once it's done raging, what lies beneath it is heartbreak. I feel like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane when he says, "My soul is swallowed up in sorrow." Or in another translation, "My heart is so filled with sadness that I could die." Moving through the anger and letting my heart crack fully open has taken so much courage. It is exhausting work. Like I said, it would be easier to stay angry. The weight of the sadness feels so heavy at times that it really does seem like it may crush me to the point of death. But when my heart is cracked like that, it seems to me that I get a very clear picture of reality. And that reality is that this life is a gift. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, to the lovely mundane in between, it is nothing but a gift. I didn't do anything to deserve this tragedy, but I also didn't do anything to deserve all of the beauty and love that came before it and continues to flow in the midst of it either. To receive that gift fully, with all that it entails, takes courage and strength, yet it is worth it. Being able to stand in the tension of the good and the bad and choose life in that place of both and is a strange grace. There is a greater fullness of life living from that place. The only thing I found that is large enough to hold the mysterious tension of the both and is love. Capital L love. Whether that is God, a higher power, the universe, I think what underlies all of those words we use is the same thing, capital L, love. In the last 10 months, love is what's allowed me to hold both sorrow and joy, anger and compassion, despair and hope, heaviness and light, death and life, bitterness and gratitude. It's what's allowed me to recognize the deeply wrong and selfish decision you made that night, but it is also what allows me to believe that you are not a bad and selfish person. It's what allows me to stand before you and acknowledge that there's truly no repayment for what was lost, and so I'm letting you off the hook. I don't believe that the you that made that choice to drink as much as you did and drive that night, the you that ultimately is responsible for Andrew's death,
He's looking down.
is the real you. I think we all have an ego and we all have a true self. That wasn't your true self that night, Nick. Love still lives in you. What I hope for you, Nick, is that you could reconnect with that true self. That you would first own the wrong inflicted by your hands and then receive God's mercy. It's the only thing I've found that can bring good from the brokenness. I pray that you would receive a deep guttural knowing that you are loved, that you are seen, and that you are free from the debt you owe, even when your circumstances behind bars and the things people say to you seem to be saying the opposite. I pray that you would have courage to let your heart be cracked open by the pain, that you would have the humility and honesty to look at the darkest parts of you and your story and let God hold them while you cry. I pray that you would have the strength to keep bringing all of it to Him, 100 times, 1,000 times, however many times it takes before you can live free from shame. I pray that every broken piece of your story would be redeemed and made beautiful, that the dark would be dominated by light,
It looks like his
the sad by
lawyer is
joy,
crying.
the evil by good. I pray that God would show you where He was in each of the loneliest moments of your life.
See, because I'm crying.
I know, baby. And you're a funeral director.
I pray that He would give you courage like a lion to fall further and further down, knowing that despite what the world says, the further you fall, the stronger you get. For in our weakness, there and only there are we actually made strong. I pray that you would be given people to encourage you and believe in you when the way forward seems impossible, that you'd be given practical tools, skilled counselors, anything you need to repair and rebuild. I pray that you would never be able to unsee the brokenness, because it seems to me that only when we see it and boldly feel it do we start to fix our eyes on heaven and really begin to live. I pray that you would own every part of your story with courage, and in honor of Andrew, you would learn to let your life speak. Amen.
Wow.
Ms. Cross. Ms. Bauer, repeat.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe that Ms. Banducci indicated that the defendant would be reading the letter that he wrote in his mitigation packet to the victim's family. I hope that he does. I think it's a good letter, and I think they need to hear that. I can tell the court when we first received the letter from Evelyn Cross that was filed with court, not the statement that she just read today. A member of our office said, of all the people, I wish it wasn't him. We don't even know Andrew Cross, but by all accounts, Andrew Cross was one of the good guys. He was one of the more valuable members of our community, and his loss has been felt by many beyond his family and friends. Instantly, I started receiving emails from people who knew him just from the YouTube channel. However, the death of Andrew Cross, and by the death of one of the most valuable members of our community, does not change the punishment here. The facts are what dictates the appropriate punishment. I've long felt for approximately 20 years doing these kinds of cases that the sentencing statute for this type of case is woefully inadequate.
Oh, shit.
There's nothing in the statute that aggravates a vehicular homicide depending on the facts. And never have I felt that to be more true, that it was inadequate than in this case.
Oh,
There's a lot of statements in the defendant's sentencing mitigation report about the trauma that he went through the Army, the PTSD, and the psychosis that he apparently was in around this time frame. One of the facts that was found in the evidence that was reviewed is that there were a number of phone calls on the defendant's phone, approximately 90 calls leading up to the crash to a suicide prevention line and crisis services line. The last one was approximately 15 minutes before. It's apparent that he wanted to hurt himself, but he wound up hurting and killing someone else. The fact that he had a prior DWAI in 2015, this is a strict liability crime. The fact that he was going 80 plus miles per hour when he hit Andrew Cross's vehicle,
10,000
dead
pound
on. There was nothing that should stop him from seeing that vehicle. And the fact that his blood alcohol was a 0.20 clearly indicates that the only sentence that would be appropriate is 10 years. And that's what we're asking for today.
Oh my God.
We are also want the court to know that Miss Evelyn Cross is not procrastinating restitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Kristl, you have the right to address me before I impose any sentence upon you. You don't have to address me, sir. You've already indicated that you wish to do so, or at least through your counsel. But I'll share with you that you can tell me as much or as little about you, this case, or anything else you think I need to know in order to impose
This
the
is
right
the guy
sentence.
talking right
Does
here.
the court wish Mr. Kristl to stand?
No, he can stay seated because that's what the sheriff would prefer, so thank you. Your Honor, I prepared a statement. I just wanted to address the color of the uniform I'm in right now, just to speak about justice. This is the color I was supposed to be wearing for my charge, and I got bumped down to medium. And since Andrew was a very public figure, a lot of justice has been being had by other inmates, so much that I chose to go back to where I was supposed to belong. And honestly, I hope that continues because of how I feel about this. I'm just going to read my statement, if that's okay with you, Your Honor. Whatever you want to do, sir. Your Honor, members of the court, family of Andrew Cross, God, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you. I'll try to make this short, not to take more time from you than I already have. Instead, I'm here to offer mine. As I've taken this time that you could have had with Andrew, I can only imagine what it caused you. The pain, loss, grief, sadness, shock that someone that you expected to see again, someone that you fell in love with or watched grow up, is gone. You didn't deserve to bury someone you love because of something that I've done. Something I'd do anything to give back. I know there's nothing I can do or say that will bring Andrew back, but God knows I wish I could. Every day since the accident, and I hope for the rest of my life, I have to accept that I can't go back and make better decisions. To truly face what I've done to your family and this community. Today, I'm fully prepared to offer my time to the Department of Corrections, but also my service to others like myself. To spare them and families like yours this sort of tragedy. I know this will never compare or be equal to what you lost, and I'm deeply sorry about that. As much as I'd like to ask for forgiveness, it wouldn't be right, after what I've already taken, to ask for anything more from you. It is I that owes you. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for this. Knowing that what I took is irreplaceable. and priceless as the dead. Something inside me died too the day I knew my actions killed an innocent person. I deserve to feel all the shame and embarrassment that my guilt will never let me free from. I have to know that I took someone's son, someone's husband. I ruined many lives because of my careless mistake. I want it to be known the depth that I feel about this, and I will continue for the rest of my life. I will never let myself forget my actions or what they've caused. I will never forget the name Andrew Kristl, the tragedy and what led me here today. I won't stop trying to make amends, pay penance, help however and wherever I can. So the day that I have to face Andrew in the afterlife on my knees, begging for forgiveness, I'll have something more to show than self-pity. I am so sorry. In my heart, in my mind, Andrew will live on to remind me of what I've done. May God have mercy on my soul and bring you the healing and comfort your family needs. I hope that you feel some justice served today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kristl.
Thank you, Your Honor, for letting me speak.
Court will accept the plea agreement that's been reached between the parties under judgment of conviction. As to count 2, vehicular homicide, DUI, a class 3 felony. Won't impose a fine as doing so would serve no purpose. Fees and costs will be calculated by my clerk and attached to the sentence order that will issue in the normal course. The prosecution has specifically represented that no victim has suffered a pecuniary loss such that restitution should be ordered or reserved. There is no request for costs or prosecution. You've waived your right to ask me to modify or reduce the sentence I'm about to impose under Criminal Rule of Procedure 35B, but you do retain the right to appeal the sentence. If you want to do that, you need to do it within 49 days of today's date. The protection order is going to remain in place during the life of the sentence, but any restrictions other than those on contact with the victim are lifted. I have considered all the statements provided to me here today. The file as well has been reviewed by the court. I've considered the purposes of sentencing, which include but are not limited to promoting the acceptance of responsibility, deterring you and others from engaging in similar conduct, punishing offenders where appropriate, rehabilitating offenders where appropriate, and imposing sentences that are consistent among offenders similarly situated, but also one that is designed to meet this offender's unique needs. You are going to go to prison today, sir, so I'll tell you on the front end, the amount of time you actually serve in prison is unlikely to be the full amount of time I impose here today. It can be and likely will be reduced by your behavior within the facility you're placed. Your accrual of good time and earned time credits, the more programming you take advantage of, the better you do in prison, the sooner you'll get out. I didn't know Mr. Andrew Kristl. I didn't know his YouTube channel. It would be improper for me to go and look him up, to go look at the channel, to view it. But what is clear to me from everything I've reviewed and read and heard here today is that Andrew was a light in this world of positivity, of honesty, of integrity, something that we are all so very short on, it seems like, in society. That Andrew provided that light to hundreds of thousands of people, but most importantly to those who were closest to him. That Andrew came from a good family that raised him well, that put him
the good things that he did. And I know that justice here today, or justice is, won't put the shattered pieces you left behind that day back together, won't make Miss Cross whole, won't restore that light to this world. And it didn't become lost on me that you and your victim are just about the same age. That you started out with perhaps a lesser hand in life. You weren't dealt the same cards. Few of us can say that the person next to us grew up the same way, had the same opportunities. But you took a path that probably wasn't too much different than Mr. Cross's. Some years ago, you went to college, you graduated, you became a soldier and served our country, and you sacrificed mightily. And by all accounts at that time, one might say that you and him were probably heading in positive directions to provide positive things for humanity. War changes people, and I don't doubt that it changed you greatly. That you were given opportunity after opportunity to address the things that impacted you, that changed you,
He just wiped the tears off his
that made
face.
you become a different person. And instead of continuously taking advantage of those things, learning from the tools given to you, you went down a path that led you here today. You drove drunk once before, and I would imagine, at least if it's me or anyone like me, that that judge told you that a natural consequence of driving drunk every time is the possibility of killing or hurting someone. And you're lucky it didn't happen on that day. But that didn't deter you 10 years later, because here we are. And I find it so impressive that through all these letters and all these people who've spoken to me here today refer to it as an accident still. They have the grace to show you mercy. They have the grace to show you some compassion where so many others wouldn't. And in some small way, their use of that word, accident, reflects as much. This wasn't an accident, sir. This was predictable. I don't think you set out that day to kill anyone. But this was no accident. You could have chosen a wall, a pole, a cliff. But instead, you pounded yourself full of alcohol, slammed the pedal as hard as possible, and drove into the back of an innocent person's car, forever changing the trajectory of so many lives. So no, justice isn't going to put anything back together. It's not going to fix the pain. It's not going to make or better Mr. Cross's memory go away. And I do think, at least from the best vantage point I have, that you are genuinely remorseful for what you did.
It doesn't change anything.
But if you truly want to make up for it, to try and be the type of person that Mr. Cross was, you've got a long way to go. With a prior alcohol-related driving offense, the nature of these facts, there is simply no world in which the court can afford you, under the purposes of sentencing, any more mercy than the state of Colorado, through its representative here, has already shown you. Accordingly, the maximum sentence available to the court is what will be imposed: 10 years to the Department of Corrections, followed by 3 years of mandatory parole, 301 days of pre-sentence confinement credit.
That's not.
Defendant's remanded to the custody of the sheriff for delivery to the executive director of the Department of Corrections to begin serving his sentence. We're adjourned in this case. Thank you.
Judge crying.
No.
Like it.
So that's the size of it. That's what happened. I'd be lying if I didn't say I kind of felt something for Ragnar a little bit. You know, I grew up like that too. And, you know, the difference is, I haven't driven a car into anybody and killed them. Have I been suicidal before? Absolutely. Have I felt like the world was picking on me? Absolutely. I done some dumb shit too, but I didn't kill anybody doing it. I feel for the guy. I do. But that doesn't change the fact that the judge had a super great point. He could have driven off a cliff. I mean, he could have drove. I mean, I'm not saying he should have. I'm just saying there was so many alternatives to just arbitrarily picking out a car and hitting it. Like his dad said a few times, he hit it so square in the back that you couldn't have done it any better. And almost like he aimed. How can a person that drunk actually hit something unless they were aiming for it? There's no way you could do it that well. You know, they're going the same direction. They got our reporter who was going to call in later, Dandy Lioness 78. She said she drives by there all the time. There's lanes on every side. He could have missed him. So I don't think 10 years is enough. I feel for the guy. I think he's very sorry he got caught. I think 10 years is enough time to remember DUI, DWI. And I think my life is worse after seeing all this. I've been covering this for a few months now because I really like this channel, and I think this is just this shit sucks. It doesn't close any doors for me.
Doesn't close any doors for anybody.
I don't feel
it's a senseless act of irresponsibility that there's no punishment for. I mean, even if he got life sentence or death sentence,
that doesn't bring anybody
it's
back.
not going to fix it. The hope is that he learns from it, and he doesn't.
I have a little
make
problem with that.
Mistake, or he does what the family wanted him to do. Use this to help other people so they don't make the same mistakes. I think that.
Yeah, but still, Andrew, you know, paying the price for it, in my opinion, is not worth it.
But what if it could be anybody?
I can't hold the camera high enough to make me not look ugly.
Anyway, it could have been somebody else. And what if it wasn't Andrew? Would it be the same thing? Would you feel exactly the same way?
If I knew them, I'm not saying I knew Andrew. I'm just saying that I knew of him and I knew his work, and that's enough. In my opinion, that's enough. Knowledge about. So I would care about anybody. I don't give a shit who it was. I would care if anybody got killed, but having known, even the judge said it, and the people that were the family impact statements, he didn't plan on doing YouTube. It just blew up because people liked him so much. He's a very likable guy. And then the more the dad talked about him, the more you think, yeah, I'm not religious, but I like that guy. He was a cool dude. He, sounded a lot like the kind of dude I am. I learn stuff and do stuff, and I like teaching people stuff. I'm not, but he sounds like a man's man, a dude, and his wife is permanently, lighter, permanently, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Something was taken away from her that can never be put back, no matter who she meets, no matter if she gets married, whatever. She can never get that back.
She's broken.
And that just leaves. That makes me think about my wife. So I don't have any closure. So thank you for tuning in.